بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. We'll make this short inshallah, it's not going to be long. Surah Quraysh, the surah is called Quraysh. Quraysh was a tribe's name. Why is this surah called Quraysh? Because it's very obvious. What do you think? Because Allah talks about them? Quraysh. And it's named after the first ayat, لِإِلَافِ Quraysh. So Quraysh is the tribe of Rasulullah ﷺ that he was from. Allah talks about the Quraysh. What is the connection of this surah with the previous surah? I hinted towards it last week. Surah Tafsīr, Allah mentions one of the greatest miracles that occurred at the time, in the year before Rasulullah ﷺ was born. And this involved the Quraysh, the custodians of Baytullah, the people in Makkah involved them. And this was a great bounty from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the Quraysh. Because already the Quraysh were respected, they were honored. Right? People used to treat them like they're some type of divine tribe because they were around the Kaaba and people knew that this is Baytullah. Everyone agreed to this. All religion preached that this was Baytullah, the house of Allah. But after this incident where the divine help of Allah, not even one fight from the Quraysh, not even one sword was lifted by the Quraysh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His divine help destroyed the army of elephants, the army of Abraha. This told the entire world, whether it was the Roman Empire, whether it was the Persian Empire, whether it was all the other tribes in Medina, whether it was the Jewish tribes, whether it was any other tribes, and the competition tribes, those tribes that were competing with the Quraysh, they all knew that the Quraysh they have some type of special merit, some type of special quality that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them. So in the next surah, this surah to Quraysh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds the Quraysh. It's not only specific to Quraysh, I'm going to get to it. It also involves us, it's connected to us also. So Allah reminds the Quraysh that I have given you this much bounties, which Allah talks about. I have given you this much bounty. I have given you aman, which you enjoy. Aman means security. وَآمَنَهُمْ مِنْ خَوْفٍ. Khawf is fear. Allah gave them aman from khawf. Khawf of attacks, khawf of poverty, khawf of some type of army coming and taking over. Allah says, I've given you this aman, safety. And Allah says, أَطْعَمَهُمْ مِنْ جُوعٍ. Allah has given them rizq. They have aman, they have food, water, and they have security. What else do they want? And these are the biggest bounty from Allah. We all enjoy them here. We know these are the biggest bounty of Allah. If you look at the Muslims in Gaza, for example, look at the Muslims in Pakistan, the poor Muslims. Look at the Muslims in Afghanistan. They don't even have food and water to drink. They have food to eat. They don't have aman. They're scared. They don't have this bounty. But these are two great bounties that we all enjoy. So Allah reminds the Quraysh, I have given you these bounties and I have caused these bounties to be given to you. So then why don't you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That's the message. But how is it a message for all of us? It's a message for all of us is because just like how Allah favored the Quraysh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given a lot of bounties and ni'mas to the Quraysh. Just like that, we have the same bounties here in America today. Right now in New York, sitting in Bethpage, in Masjid Al-Baqi, all of us here enjoy the same bounties. We have water, we have chai, we have sweets, we have, name it, we have it. We have so much water, we even waste water. You see empty water bottles, half, and they're thrown in the garbage. Allah has given us this much rizq. And what about our aman? We live in a safe environment. Some of us don't even have cameras, and we're not even afraid. We wake up and we're happy. We can leave our kids in our house and we feel some type of contentment. Inshallah, nothing is going to happen. This aman. Allah has given us the same bounties. So then the question of Allah is, فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ هَذَا الْبَيْتِ. Your job is to be grateful and do ibadah of the Rabb of Bayt, yani Kaaba Sharif. You have to also be grateful to Allah as well as worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the summary of the message in Surah Quraysh. It's connected to Surah Fil because in Surah Fil Allah talks about one of the greatest bounties, one of the greatest miracle upon the Quraysh. Because of this, the Quraysh, their level, their security, their status amongst the Arab tribes in Syria and the Byzantine Empire, amongst at that time the superpower. Now you have America, you have Russia, these superpowers. Superpower of the time was the Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, and it was the Persian Empire. These were the two empires, superpowers. They used to fight with each other, but they wouldn't come to Makkah. They wouldn't come to the Quraysh because they knew we can't do anything. Abraham made a mistake. He came, his pride got the best of him. He came and Allah did what Allah did with him. In Surah Tafsīr, we talked about that last week. So now the Quraysh, the tribe of Quraysh, and the people around Makkah, the people of Makkah, Quraysh lived there. They were the caretakers of Baytullah, of the house of Allah. Their respect, their honor has increased in society. Now, people won't even dare. Before they won't do it also, but now they won't even dare to rob them. So Allah talks about, what are these two bounties? Allah talks about the business safar, the commercial safar, travel that they used to do, business trip that they used to take to Syria, right? And also to Yemen in summer and winter. They used to go because around in Makkah, you don't have greens. There's not a lot of fertile land, right? They don't have a lot of fruits. They don't have a lot of goods, produce coming out. So the Quraysh, they were always starving. They were very poor. Until in the lineage of great-grandfathers of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Hashim. His name was Hashim. That's why the children of Hashim were called Banu Hashim. And Rasulullah comes from Banu Hashim. Abdul Muttalib was his grandfather. He comes from Banu Hashim. The most honorable tribe is Quraysh, the Prophet said. Amongst the Quraysh is Banu Hashim. And Allah chose me from Bani Hashim to be the last messenger. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. So Quraysh have some special status to them. And there's a reason why Allah chose the Quraysh. Why He chose the last prophet from the Quraysh. Specifically from Makkah. Not from the Roman Empire. Not from the Jewish lineage. Not from any other place. But Allah chose the Quraysh. From the Quraysh He chose Banu Hashim. From Banu Hashim He chose Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And He chose them from Makkah Mukarramah. There's a whole wisdom which you study in Seerah. That's a whole different topic. So the Quraysh, Hashim, the great grandfather of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he came up with this plan, this business trip, that in summer and winter, we should have a business trip to Syria, and we should have a business trip to Yemen, and go there, buy whatever we need for the year, and bring it back. Right? So he came up with this. And now the Quraysh in the time, and this continued on, after Abdul Muttalib and the incident of Abraha, it became even more easier for the Quraysh to have business trip. Back then, whether you're from the Roman Empire, you're from the Persian Empire, you're from any other tribe, you're from Medina, or you live in Khaybar, where the Jews were, you live around Medina, where the Jews, anywhere you go on a trip, right? There were highway robbers. It's not like nowadays. Even nowadays, if you go to these third world countries, you go to these places, you cannot travel, especially at late night. There's always highway robbers. Maybe it happens here also. Sometimes we read on news, but it's not that common here. So there will be highway robbers. Everyone will get robbed. There's a high fear. You have to take soldiers with you. You have to take weapons with you. But what about the Quraysh? The Quraysh would just go with this much aman that not even one highway robber would dare to attack the Quraysh, especially after the incident that Allah talks about in Surah Tafsīr. This much aman, safety Allah gave them. Because of this, they had a lot of rizq coming, a lot of profit they would make, a lot of food, a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetation coming to Makkah, and they're just so happy. So they were living happily. They were living in a way that they're not poor. Allah talks about this in Surah Quraysh, and we start off the surah. Allah says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. There's 4 ayats in the surah. Allah says, لِإِلَافِ Quraysh. The li in Arabic, this is a preposition. This in Arabic we call harf jar. Those who know Arabic, they probably know what I'm talking about. Harf jar. Harf jar can come for different meanings. Li means for, to. Over here it means because. Because. So it comes to tell you the reason of why they should worship Allah. The reason of why they should be grateful to Allah. And what is li'ilafi connected to? It's connected to verse number 3. Verse 2, Allah talks about the reason why the Quraysh should be worshipping Allah, and it's connected to verse number 3. And this is some grammatical discussions here which we don't need to get into. So li means because. Because ilaf comes from ilf. Ilf, it means to be familiar with something. When you come to this community new, after a while, you get ilaf. Ilaf means you become familiarized with the community. You get to know your community. So Allah says, because of the familiarity of the Quraysh. So He just ends first at this. Because of the familiarity of Quraysh. لِإِلَافِ, because of the familiarity of Quraysh. Now, what is this familiarity of Quraysh? Familiarity with what? With warfare? Familiarity with what? Then Allah mentions what? In terms of what? إِلَافِهِمْ, their familiarity. رِحْلَةَ الشِّتَاءِ. Rihla is an Urdu word also, rihla. How many rihlat mein jaate hain? Rihlat, some madrasas are called rihlatul ilm. Right? They're called journey. Rihla means a journey, safar. So their familiarity with the travel of shita means winter, and saif means summer. In Arabic, shita means winter, and as-saif with the sad. Saif means summer. Their familiarity with the commercial travel, the commercial trip that they would take in the winter, and they would take in the summer. These are the two causes of them being rich, of them having food. And Allah gave them this amal. So Allah is talking about this familiarity. O Quraysh, don't you forget this bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your familiarity of traveling of winter and summer. Saif, fixed tajweed. It's not safe. Saif with sad. It means summer. Saif, it means sword. Small change. Sad and sin. This is one of those examples. You change the sad, it's makruh tahrimi to make these mistakes. Makruh tahrimi means it's sinful. You're changing the whole meaning of the Quran. You want to break your salat, it's not a bad meaning, but it's sinful. It's not safe. رِحْلَةَ الشِّتَاءِ وَالسَّيْفِ. No. رِحْلَةَ الشِّتَاءِ وَالصَّيْفِ. صَيْف. Full mouth. Make it strong. Saif means summer. Saif means sword. Like Khalid bin Walid, what do we call him? Saifullah. He was given the title as the sword of Allah. Saifullah. This is Saif. Saif means summer. Another common mistake is kalb and qalb. Kalb means dog. Qalb means heart. So when we read Surah Al-Kahf, we say وَقَلْبُهُمْ بَاسِطٌ, and their heart in front of the cave was spreading their hands, because Allah is talking about the dog. And then when in the Quranic ayat qalb comes, do they have hearts that they can understand with? We say kalbun, which means do they have dogs that they can understand with? So we change the whole meaning and it becomes turns into this. Sometimes it's not our fault because we're not Arabs. But the thing is we need to study, right? We need to study these basics, right? So we can improve ourselves. Always be open to learning and changing and adapting to new knowledge that is out there. So then Allah says, this bounty that I've given you, ilafihim, their familiarity with travel, which was the main source of their rizq. But now who caused this with so much ease? Who caused this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now this is connected to the next verse. فَلْيَعْبُدُوا. It comes from ibadah. Ya'budu comes from abada ya'budu. It means let them now worship. Fa, then. Ya'budu, they shall worship. Fa means then. For example, I say Ja'a Zaydun fa Amrun. Zayd came, then comes Amr. Fa. We use the word, just the letter fa. Fa zabar fa. Many places in the Quran it means then. So then ya'budu, let them do the ibadah. Let them worship. And part of ibadah is gratefulness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is one of the greatest ibadah. Being grateful to Allah. Not blaming Allah. Not neglecting the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let them worship رَبَّ هَذَا الْبَيْتِ. Rabba means the Lord. Hada means this. Al-Bayt, it means house. Which house is this talking about? Kaaba. Al-Bayt in here, the house refers to Kaaba Sharif. Let them worship, let the Quraysh, and by extension all of us, because the Quran is not just speaking to Quraysh here. There's a principle, when you study fiqh, there's principles of fiqh. When you study hadith, there's principles of hadith. When you study tafsir, there are principles of tafsir as well. The main principle in tafsir is when Allah mentions names of people, that means the message is not only for them. The ibrah, the lesson is for the world. Keep that principle in mind. So Allah is talking about Quraysh, but the lesson is not only for the Quraysh. The lesson is for the entire world. All of us sitting here. Even today, even tomorrow, even maybe hundreds of years in the future. The message is for everyone. That's the principle of tafsir. When you read Quran, don't think, it's Quraysh. It's talking about Abu Lahab, Tabbat yada Abi Lahabin wa Tab, which we'll cover. It's just talking about Abu Jahl. It's just talking about this person. It's talking about Qawmi Had, Qawmi Lut. It's talking about Qawmi Lut, what the acts they did. It's not talking about us. No, the message of the Quran is for everyone. It's universal. Even though it's a specific incident. That's the principle of tafsir. So Allah says, let the Quraysh, by extension all of us, worship the Lord of this house. Why did Allah specify Bayt? He could have said, Lord, worship the most generous Lord, worship the Lord that created you. But Allah mentioned the Lord of this house, because Allah knows that the house, Baytullah, was the source why the Quraysh were honored. That's why Allah mentioned only this quality. This is the beauty of the Quran. Allah mentions quality not because He just wants to mention them. There's a message behind them. The source of the Quraysh or of the Meccans, and even Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of his khususiyat, specialties, is that he has Baytullah. It's because of the Kaaba Sharif. So Allah reminds them, listen, I put you around the Kaaba. I'm the Lord of the Kaaba. Just like I respect the Kaaba, you have to respect the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let them worship Rabb, the Lord. Rabb, perfect word is Lord, the one who takes care of you. Rabb, let's talk a little bit about Rabb and we'll end off the last 2 ayats has been done. Rabb means, even a father is a Rabb. What did I just say? Na'udhu billah, you called me a Lord? No. In Arabic language, Rabb. Rabb means Lord. Ar-Rabb, that's the Lord is Allah. But a father is the caretaker of his kid. Rabb comes from Rabba, yurabbi. It means when you do tarbiyat, when you do upbringing of your kid is in the stomach, in the womb of the mother, and you take care of the kid comes out, and step by step you're feeding him, you take care of him, and he gets big, he becomes baligh, and it becomes strong, and then becomes a businessman, he gets money, he stands on his own feet. That's called tarbiyah. So you, in Arabic, can be called Rabb. That's why when you study fiqh, they use the word Rabb. So if they want to say the master of this person, they say Rabb. They say you have to use the word Rabb. So Rabb has this meaning, but for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took care of the entire universe. And He is the Lord. Ar-Rabb is only Allah. But you can use the word Rabb in Arabic for other meanings as well, besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the meaning of Rabb. So when you say Rabb, it has this emotions behind it. That's why whenever you say Rabbana atina, Rabbi ja'al, Rabbana taqabbal minna, Rabb, that's why He has the emotion. What's the emotion? Just like how the emotion a father has for the kid. I took care of you. I gave you everything. You were 15, 18, 25. I paid for education, thousands of dollars yearly. I spent thousands of dollars on your diapers, on your food, on everything, this emotion. And then when the kid grows up, he's like, Daddy, you get out of my house. There's emotions. That's why the word Rabb has its emotions. Even if you don't know the meaning, you can relate to it, because this is Rabb, Allah is the Lord. It has this emotions behind it. That's my Lord. How can I not worship Him? How can I disgrace Him? I mean, you can never disgrace Allah. You can try. You can try, but you will never harm Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How can I ever curse Him? How can I leave salat? My Lord told me to do it. My Father told me to do this. How can I not go and help Him out? You understand this message behind? That's why the meaning for Muslims, the word Rabb, it has a lot of emotions behind it. Because Rabb is Allah. It has its emotions behind it. So Allah says, Rabba hadha al-bayt, the Lord of this house, worship Him. And then He says, Alladhi, two more qualities. Is the Lord of the house? Alladhi at'ama. Alladhi means the one. At'ama means to give food. He gave them food, the Quraysh, and by extension all of us. Min ju'. Ju' means hunger. Hunger. None of us know what hunger is. Unless you came from back home and you didn't have anything. None of us know what hunger is. No kids can over here raise their hand and say, I know what hunger is. You don't know what true hunger is. Allah says He's the one who fed them against hunger, the Quraysh, because they were hungry people. They were very poor, poverty. But because of Baytullah, because of this honor Allah gave them, they were able to bring rizq by doing business with safety, with aman. While other people didn't have this quality, this benefit, or this bounty. So Allah says He fed them against ju'. Ju' means hunger. Now what's the third quality of Allah? So Allah is the feeder, and that's the truth. Allah is the sustainer, that's the truth. The meaning of Rabb has this meaning in it. The one who sustains, the one who feeds you, the one who takes care of you. So Allah is the one who fed them. وَآمَنَهُم مِّنْ خَوْفٍ. And Allah aman. You can see this? Aman. I'm trying to connect it to words that you know in your language. Urdu gets a lot of words from Arabic and Farsi. Right? So we take a lot of words in Urdu from Arabic and from Farsi. And a little bit from Hindi as well. So aman. Amanahum. And Allah gave them aman. Amanahum. When I say amanahu, He gave him security. Right? Allah says, وَآمَنَهُمْ. Allah gave them aman, security. Min khawf, from all fear, against all fear. The Quraysh would travel, no fear. Even we fear. When we travel our country, sometimes we fear if I go to this country, they might attack us. Quraysh didn't feel this. They can go anywhere. People would love to travel with Quraysh. Qurayshis are traveling, let's say Abdul Muttalib is going on Safar. People will come from far, let's go with Abdul Muttalib. Because if they have the Quraysh Janda, they have the Quraysh banner and flag, no one's going to dare to attack them. Especially after the incident of elephant. No one would dare to come and attack them. So Allah reminds the world and the Quraysh, He has fed you, He has given you aman. Two biggest ni'mat that we enjoy. We all enjoy. So worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the message of Surah Quraysh. Worship your Allah. Be grateful to your Allah. He has given you food, He has given you everything. He has given you aman, He has given you rizq. So worship your Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't go astray. So the Quraysh, leave your polytheism and stop bothering Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Stop being his enemy. So when people's Quraysh, when they heard this message, some of them accepted Islam and some of them still remained upon their ignorance for whatever reasons. I'll end off with this final message. Our mashayikh, ulama have mentioned, this is a big benefit. If you fear someone, you fear an enemy, or let's say you have some fear of an oppressor or someone doing a false case against you, you fear someone, adu, enemy, or you fear an affliction. Affliction means you fear some type of difficulty coming your way. Sometimes you feel this, you get this sensation Allah puts in your heart, and a Muslim is able to recognize, right? This is this whole different field. Allah, you're able to recognize impending, there's going to be some type of danger coming your way. Sometimes you can see it, you can feel it, you can sense it, you can see it in a dream. The ulama have written, recite Surah Quraysh. Do khatams of Surah Quraysh as much as you can. From tajriba, from experience. There's no hadith, but looking at the meaning of Surah Quraysh and looking at the mashayikh practicing Surah Quraysh, from their experience, Surah Quraysh will insha'Allah remove, avert, divert the coming danger your way, the coming enemies your way. Surah Quraysh, through it Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will save you. Tafsīr Madhari is a very famous tafsir, Tafsīr Madhari. Tafsir Madhari is Qadi Thana'ullah Panipati, or Indian scholars, mashallah, they have a lot of ulum knowledge. He wrote a book, Tafsir Madhari. In here he writes his sheikh, who was a great Qadi Thana'ullah, great scholar of his time. Like my sheikh told me that whenever you fear danger and you have a fear of enemy or some difficulty that you sense, and you have fear of any sort of fear you have, read Surah Quraysh. Do khatam of Surah Quraysh. And then his teacher was Sheikh Jane Janan. That was his Sheikh. Jane Janan, it's a Persian, Jane Janan. This was his Sheikh. Madhar, it was Mirza Madhar Jane Janan. He was also a great scholar of the time. So his Sheikh told him, from experience, because he tried this, and the awliya, the friends of Allah, they tried this, the mashayikh ulama, they tried this. From experience, we have seen, when you recite Surah Quraysh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you aman against khawf. وَآمَنَهُمْ مِنْ khawf. Allah will give you aman against your khawf as well. And you can also get the rizq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So do the khatam of Surah Quraysh. Qadi Thana'ullah says, I tried this in many instances, because he was a judge. When you're a judge, you have a lot of enemies. People don't like you, people want to attack you, people want to do whatever they want to do to you. So he says, in many cases, I tried this. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me aman. And it worked. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected me. So this is one amal we can do. When we fear something, we fear some cruelty, some injustice happening, where there's a court case and you know some guy suing you for no reason, you did nothing. You have this type of fear or some apprehensions, or you have some fear for your kids, or you fear that your kid, his cancer might become even more severe, or you fear that this disease might, so you have these dangers and this, apprehensions, this fear that you have. Read Surah Quraysh and do the khatam of Surah Quraysh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you aman. Allah will give you security and Allah will give you peace. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from us. Until next week, inshallah, we end off with this. Any other questions? Any questions? Before we enjoy chai and sweets? Samosas? Kadli?
It's not related to...
We should have chicken tikka next week, inshallah, with rice and white sauce. Every week samosas is good. But Allah will give us. Let's read Surah Quraysh. Maybe next week we can have some nice kebab and rice. Allah will give us أطعمهم من جوع. Khair.
Yeah,
Question.
the question is not related to Surah Quraysh, but Surah Quraysh. I remember you mentioned last time.
Yes.
The Ethiopian king Najashi gave his soldiers.
His name was Asmaha.
Okay.
That was his name. Answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Najashi is a title that is used for the Ethiopian king.
Yes.
Right? It was used for the rulers of Habasha, Abyssinia, modern day Ethiopia. Najashi was a title, but their names would be different. So if you want to see the Ethiopian king, you see Najashi. So the Najashi that was alive at the time of Abdul Muttalib was different Najashi that was alive at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam who brought Iman. He accepted Islam. Later on, this Najashi accepted Islam. And that was a different Najashi who he let the Muslims migrate. That was different. That was the grandson, if I'm not mistaken, of Asmaha. It was different Najashi. But the Najashi in Surah Al-Fil that we talked about, that was Asmaha. That was his name, Asmaha. It was different Najashi. Any other questions? Yes.
So you said that the letter Fa usually means then, right?
Fa zabar fa.
So I was reading the meaning of a few ayahs, and then I saw that Thumma means then also.
Very good. Why, mashallah, little kid became a master in Arabic. Who knows this? Thumma also means then. In your question, what is the difference? What's the difference? That's very good. That's an Arabic lesson. Fa is used for immediate. And it's used for immediate. And but this then happens right away. Thumma usually is used for tarahi, delayed. Like, a couple of months later, a couple of days, you said, then use the word then. Then this happened. Yani after a long time it happened. Fa means right away. So Allah is saying, right away worship Him. I give you this much rizq, I give you everything. There's no delay, don't think. Just go worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's another beauty of the language of Quran. But we can't go over too much linguistic miracles of the Quran because it's tough. You have to have some type of understanding of Arabic language. A very good point. Qabul Allah. Jazakallah khair. Inshallah, let's see you.